With the Solstice Horizons event in Pokemon Go, you can now get Sneasler in Great League PvP without having to happen to run into somebody who hatched a Hisuian Sneasel before reaching level 16. Basically, getting Sneasler into the Great League is no longer dubious, it's a thing you can do. And because we now have this greater control over Sneasler IVs, I figured I may as well take a closer look and make the Sneasler PvP IV deep dive for Great League PvP. Now, if you're not too familiar with my deep dive series, or if at any point in this video you're getting confused what I'm talking about, I highly recommend checking out the PvP IVs simplified video, link above and in the description. Basically, get your feet wet before you dive off into the deep end here. And I will be showing charts featuring the PvP IVs that you're going to be looking for the stat checks. That and all the information in this video in a text-based format is linked down below in my Sneasler PvP IV deep dive on GamePress. Without further ado, let's talk about Sneasler. Overall, I gotta say Sneasler isn't the best pick in the open Great League meta. When we usually talk about Sneasler, it's going to be in like a limited format where Sneasler ends up having a bunch of advantages because all the stuff that really hurts Sneasler isn't exactly there. And in these Sneasler heavy metas, you're probably going to run into a bunch of other Sneasler, and wouldn't you know it, Sneasler has a breakpoint that can really help it in the mirror matchup by allowing it to do 1 extra damage per Shadow Claw, along with getting the charge move priority by having the higher attack stat. So that breakpoint against the rank 1 Sneasler will start at 148.73 attack, which is what this list is cut at. And then I also put in an HP check of 110 as a minimum. When it comes to the defense, you can chase like against the opposing Sneasler's attack breakpoint to an extent, but I noticed that the send-off came so early that you're probably gonna get the defense breakpoint lost against the opposing Sneasler. It's so easy to get the attack breakpoint on Sneasler that you're gonna want to make up for those bulk matchups with HP rather than trying to make up for it for defense. So in this particular list, defense is a complete dump stat. We're not really worrying about defense. We're just worrying about the attack and the HP stat. Now, when it comes to the HP for the mirror matchup, 110 is safe for a lot of the unique scenarios where you don't end on charge move priority. But because you will be facing other attack-weighted Sneasler, I feel like it would be a little bit safer to have 111 HP. And in general, when it comes to the Sneasler v Sneasler matchup, the more HP you have, for those situations where it doesn't end exactly on the charge move, the better. But outside of those situations, you're going to want to have the charge move priority with the higher attack weight. So as far as what the best Sneasler is out of the 254 IV spreads I have here, I mean, your results may vary. You could sort it by attack and then, I don't know, go with this one because it has 111 HP and the highest attack stat. But if you're in the matchup scenario where it ends on charge move priority, well then obviously the 1307 is going to do a bit better. So it can be a little bit of a wash. And I didn't look into the matchups like super razor thin closely to like give you an idea of like the probability of ending up in one situation or another. I'd just say if you get any of these ones and they look pretty good, then go with that. But above all else though, if I had to make a choice, if I had to make a judgment call, I would be siding with the higher HP stats. This particular matchup is one where I feel like having the bigger stamina can help you out. So in this situation, you're in the Sneasler mirror matchup, you both baited with the X-Scissor, you both shielded the X-Scissor, and you got to this point where they throw the X-Scissor, you shield it, and then you're thinking maybe I'm going to take like a 1-2 shield loss or victory here by throwing the close combat, but lo and behold, they shield that close combat so you don't get to, flip this matchup nice, easy squeezy. They're taking you to the 2-2, and then because you threw the close combat, you can now get farmed down. But because we have 114 HP here, they can't fully farm us down. They have to throw the final charge move to close out the fight here. And, they might not recognize that. They might think they have it like that and then learn just how much they don't have it like that. Or you could force them to throw energy here and close out the fight. So I think overall this could put you in a slightly better situation. Obviously this is a very hyper-specific matchup scenario, but there are a lot of goofy situations with Sneasler where it does end up being like this 1 HP kind of situation. So yeah, I'd say overall side with the CMP, but if you can get that higher HP, I definitely do like the higher HP there. Now, when it comes to a more open Great League kind of Sneasler, I feel like there's a whole CVS receipt worth of attack and defense breakpoints where, unless you have like a very specific vision for what you want your Sneasler to do, it's really hard for me to just give a blanket statement, this is the Sneasler you want kind of recommendation here. The list I have here has that 110 HP minimum with a 96.1 defense stat. I guess if I had to pick just one Sneasler that I'd want to use in the Open Great League meta, this one would probably be it. The defense is based on the Lickitung, and not just the rank 1 Lickitung, but a slight attack weighted Lickitung, the 10, 14, 13 in particular. So if you do really value reducing that lick damage from the Lickitung there, well then you could ask for more defense, but as you can tell here, we're already pretty limited in how much defense we can ask for. And if you don't value the Lickitung matchup that much, you could rein that defense stat in. If you do dump the defense stat a bit for the Open Great League meta, I'd be a little bit wary of dumping it too close to 92.42 defense. That's the rank 1 XL Bastiodon defense breakpoint. So with that level of defense, if you get the defense breakpoint, you could overcome Bastiodon in the 2-1 shield scenario only using X Scissor, which isn't the most impressive thing in the world, right? But you're a fighting type Pokemon. Do you really need to be taking extra damage to Bastiodon? It would be nice to have some more flexibility in your win conditions against Bastiodon. So I feel like in the Open Great League meta, having at least this much of defense could be important. But obviously, it might not be your priority depending on how you want to use the Sneasler. An attack breakpoint that stood out to me is 146.71 attack for Umbreon. It makes the Umbreon 2-2 shield scenario a lot more consistent, and it also gives you potential to do the 1-2 shield scenario against the Umbreon by doing 1 extra damage per Shadow Claw. And then an even higher attack breakpoint that stood out was the 148.45 attack, which can grant you the 1-2 shield scenario against a rank 1 Registeel, and maybe, just maybe, the 0-0 shield scenario against awkwardly scuffed IV Registeel. It kind of depends on where their defense and their HP lands, but the 1-2 can be a bit more consistent there, even after the debuff, because of the extra damage that you're doing per Shadow Claw. So overall, if you got any of those attack or defense breakpoints with, I don't know, maybe 108 HP there, then I think that could be a perfectly acceptable Open Great League Sneasler. But once again, I feel like if you're going to bring Sneasler to the Open Great League meta, you got to have a specific vision, you know, a goal that you want to achieve with it. And then, I don't know, maybe check out the matchups on pvpoke.com and see if the Sneasler options you have to do that job are doing it the way you want them to, I guess. Because there's a lot of pros and cons with each breakpoint that you can trade off with on the Open Great League Sneasler, which is what makes going for the Mirror Slayer a whole lot more straightforward, right? So that's about all I gotta say about Mr. Sneasler here. If you got any questions on this content, of course, comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. And if you enjoyed this kind of content, you want to see more like it, well, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. SwagTips. I'd also like to give a special shout out to these Patreon supporters. If you want to support Swagman on Patreon, link in the description. And if you're curious about Ultra League stuff, I did take a brief glance at Sneasler in the Ultra League. There are attack breakpoints, but it seems like a lot of the more relevant attack breakpoints are on these like rank 1 legendary Pokemon, which probably won't be the rank 1. So you could probably thrift on those enough. And reasonably, the attack breakpoints kind of fall into the jurisdiction of like super high stat product Sneasler there. So going for like the rank 1 or something rank 1 adjacent, but with like a higher defense weight or a slightly higher attack weight could be good for the Ultra League Sneasler, but I'm not too familiar with Sneasler usage in the Ultra League. It could just be like the Great League where it's just going to be like a Sneasler meta where you see the Sneasler, but in the open meta you're not seeing a whole lot of Sneaslers, so your mileage may vary there.